name's Bond. James Bond.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to Bond vs. Godzilla, the podcast that compares and contrasts two of the longest-running film series in cinema history. My name is Cruz Moore, and I will be your resident Godzilla expert on this show. Joining me on this cinematic journey for however long it lasts are three of my very good friends who each have their own history and experience with both film franchises. Bond expert Jacob Roberts.
I prefer to be referred to by my actual title, Count de Bonchamp.
Audio engineer Willie Crook.
Hi, I'm your resident Fruits Basket case.
And digital artist Chas Lemons.
And I'm off to wake up Godzilla with a cattle prod after this podcast.
On today's episode, we'll be tackling On Her Majesty's Secret Service from 1969 and Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster from 1966. So without further ado, Jake, give us a backstory on the first Bond film that saw Sean Connery leaving the role for a new star.
Following You Only Live Twice in 1967, Bond producers Cubby Broccoli and Harry Saltzman were faced with their biggest challenge yet, finding a new 007. With Sean Connery having left the role at the height of his popularity, managers and actors all over the UK entered a massive scramble to take over the most coveted role in film history. The search for the new James Bond took over a year, and over 400 actors were interviewed. The producers made the decision that what they wanted was another Sean Connery. Instead of reinventing the character, they wanted a depiction that audiences would be familiar with, and the change of actor could be downplayed. The role of James Bond ultimately landed in the lap of a literal nobody. George Lazenby was an Australian model whose only screen work up to this point was in commercials for the Big Fry chocolate company. His chiseled features, combined with an impressive screen test in which he accidentally knocked out a professional stuntman, was enough for him to be given the role. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is a faithful adaptation of Ian Fleming's 10th James Bond novel. The film version of On Her Majesty's Secret Service was supposed to be the fourth film after Goldfinger. However, it was delayed because the opportunity to produce Thunderball presented itself. It was pushed back even further due to a lackluster Swiss winter, and You Only Live Twice was chosen to take its place. Peter Hunt, who had served as the editor for all the previous Bond films up to this point, and even served as second unit director for 3 of the films, decided he wanted to step up and take the reins as director for the 6th film. Before he could get started on Majesty's, he had to finish up work as associate producer for the film Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, another Cubby Broccoli production based on another Ian Fleming novel. He brings in a lot of the crew from Chitty to work on Majesty's, including screenplay writer Richard Maybaum. Hunt felt that the gadgets were slowly taking over the show, and so decided to make On Her Majesty's Secret Service a purely faithful adaptation of the source novel. Throughout production, the one obvious question lingered in the heads of Eon Productions. Would the public accept a new 007?
I think it's incredible that the introductory phase of interviews for this role was, are you handsome? Yes. Can you punch a guy? Yes. You're hired.
Basically, yeah. There's actually a number of notable actors that have said to have been offered the role before they finally settled on Lazenby. One of note would be future Bond actor Timothy Dalton was offered the role. However, he turned it down because he felt he was too young to play the part.
Who I'm looking forward to because I love him in Hot Fuzz, and that's all I know him from.
Yeah,
Dalton?
Yeah.
He would have been 22 when offered the role, and he turned it down because he thought it was too young. By reference, Lazenby was 28.
Dalton actually stars in my favorite Bond movies. So.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And then Adam West was also offered the part.
Really?
Yep. But he turned it down because
he was Batman.
he turned it down because he felt that the actor portraying Bond should be British.
Oh, okay. I kind of, that's what it sounded like to me.
Ultimately, we ended up with an Australian, but, you know.
Close enough.
Close enough. From what I hear, he actually wanted to portray Bond slightly differently. He wanted Bond to be played as kind of more of a sympathetic, emotional, kind of more subdued character, but the producers were insistent that, no, we need you to be Sean Connery.
Well, it seems like he kind of got his way a little bit, especially considering the ending of this movie.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the ending in particular, considering that this man had literally never acted before, I think he did tremendous in this film. The final filming of, if you haven't seen the movie now, go freaking watch it because there's going to be spoilers all over the place. When Tracy dies, Lazenby got so emotionally invested in his acting that he legitimately started to cry as he was acting that scene out. And Peter Hunt, the director, made him do another take, this time without tears, because James Bond doesn't cry.
Oh, fuck that. Like, that's the one moment where I actually cared about this interpretation of Bond, because I don't think he does a bad job throughout the rest of the film, but he's not Sean. Having a Bond movie end this way, where they drive off into the sunset after their wedding, felt very odd. And then almost hilarious to immediately have his wife get shot. And I'm just kind of reveling in the comedy of it. But then as soon as he actually says, we have all the time in the world, that's when I was like, oh, man.
It hits.
And it worked.
It hits.
It worked. James Bond doesn't cry. Then why did you have her die in the end if it's not supposed to be an emotional moment?
Just following the book. Like I said, this is a very faithful adaptation, almost one-to-one to the original book. So
in the book, it doesn't say he didn't shed a single tear because he's just too damn cool.
He drove dutifully to the coroner's office.
The original idea for how the movie was supposed to play out was on Her Majesty's Secret Service. The movie was going to end right after the wedding with him driving out into the sunset. And then the next film would open. The pre-title sequence would be Tracy getting killed.
That's even better, I think.
However, that didn't play out because Lazenby didn't do any more films. So when it was announced that Lazenby was only going to do this one film, they couldn't do it that way.
Because I like those. I don't know how often they did it back then, but nowadays you'll get certain hidden credits or hidden details when it comes to movies where you see them in the IMDb list and you're like, oh, okay, they're in the film. And then the first 5 minutes they're dead and they're like, huh? Like for anyone who goes to see Children of Men to see Julianne Moore, you're like, the fuck just happened? Why is she on the cover?
I like to call that the Psycho effect.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, fast forwarding to the end of the film, that surprisingly is like the strongest moment and shows a lot more emotion than I feel, any of the other. The name of the character that I liked from the last film that got poisoned.
Aki?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like nothing. There's absolutely no response. And then we finally get that in this film. And silence. It's just silence. And then the credits appear. And I'm like, wow, you have balls to end a film that way. Followed by... And I'm like, oh, guys, come on.
James Bond will be back in.
If I could change one thing about the movie, it would having the Bond theme come in at the ending like that, because it is kind of a bit of a tonal whiplash.
James Bond will return in Boys Don't Cry.
But no, there is genuine chemistry between Bond and Tracy.
By the end of it, I
film.
think.
That's one of the reasons why Tracy is definitely one of my favorite Bond girls of all time. Diana Rigg, who played Tracy, was already a big household name in Britain. She got big as playing the character Emma Peel on the hit TV show The Avengers. Not those Avengers.
Right. Well, first off, this courtship begins with her attempting to commit suicide. Maybe you can elaborate on that when she's walking into the ocean.
I believe the novel elaborates it a bit more. From what my understanding is, with her trying to dip into the ocean, is that she was on the run from debtors, essentially. So it was part of her accumulated debt.
So she just walked into the ocean?
Yeah, she was...
So wait, were those two men there to kill him or kill her?
Presumably they were there to kill her, and Bond just got in the way.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a weird I'm like, this is the weirdest way to try to kill Bond. Two guys on a beach.
You know, they were there after Tracy and Bond got in the way.
Yeah, I thought it was like some weird assassination attempt where they just like drugged her somehow and like let her loose into the ocean.
Yeah, because from the idea that I understand is like they weren't even necessarily there to kill her. They were going to capture her and use her against her father. So her idea was to kill herself so that they couldn't go after her father.
Fixes everything.
It's such a simple
So
solution.
that's how it starts, and then their courtship continues with Papa. Every time she says Papa, I'm like,
Papa!
this should not be coming from a woman in her late 20s, early 30s. Her dad is trying to get them together for his benefit. But then it's followed by one of the moments where I looked over at Chaz and I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this film, is when we get into the romantic montage. And that
I
music's
figured,
playing.
I knew.
Like, this is kind of bad.
Since the moment this project began, I knew, like, when it comes to the courtship musical montage in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, like, that's going to be a love it or hate it moment. Very much is.
It was things like that played into what you said during the screening, Chaz, was it kind of feels like a made-for-TV Bond film.
Yeah.
Some of the production value just felt a little bit more, I guess, commonplace, and it didn't feel like it reached the heights that the previous films had. But then by the end of it, we have this amazing helicopter shootout. So it kind of got better as the film went on.
Yeah, no, I've mentioned this before to you guys that On Her Majesty's Secret Service ranks within my top 5 Bond films. I don't pretend that it's perfect. I do think it drags a bit in the middle. But to me, the strength of the characters in this film features some of my favorite characters in the entire franchise. Telly Savalas is my favorite interpretation of Blofeld. I really love Tracy. I really love Draco. The fight scenes and the action scenes, specifically with the skiing, is just always super fun to watch, and that ending. Mm-hmm. So I've always rated this movie very highly.
I can agree with that. I do think that this movie definitely has some of the best characters,
Yeah.
especially that we've seen so far.
Yeah, I was interested to know, like, what exactly was it primarily about this film that made it a favorite, because it's not a bad thing. I consider this the weakest of all the Bond films so far. But by the end of it, it wasn't a terrible movie. But compared to the rest, just not as great.
Yeah, that helicopter shootout and the ski scenes definitely pretty much saved this movie entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to the skiing scenes, special shout out does have to go to the camera work done by Willie Bogner Jr., who was in charge of filming all of those ski sequences. Pretty much the greatest ski cameraman that ever lived. He filmed those sequences. How I was able to get all those shots and all that action is he was on skis himself, skiing alongside with the action while holding a camera, sometimes between his legs, backwards, just whatever was necessary to get the shot.
God, I hope this works.
Yeah. So we'll see his work pop up again in later films. Basically, whenever we get a really cool snow skiing sequence in the series, he's the one behind that. And then all of the aerial shots of those ski sequences in the Alps were all performed by our favorite one-legged cameraman, Johnny Jordan.
Does this giant, because it's quite impressive, the fact you said it was an actual location.
Oh, yeah,
that they
Piz
found.
Gloria. So Piz Gloria, they first found it when they were scouting the Swiss Alps for a location to serve as Piz Gloria. And just by chance, they found this building on top of this peak that was pretty much matched perfectly with what Ian Fleming described in the book. It was perfect. And it was like, just a high altitude ski resort restaurant that was in the middle of being under construction up on that peak, with the revolving dining room with the outer windows and the whole revolving alpine room. That was all there, part of the original building that was under construction. So the production team pretty much went in and chipped in to help finish building this restaurant, even forking over their own money to have a helipad installed.
Wow.
Just so
That's
they could
pretty
film
cool.
there, because the location was just perfect. And yeah, still around today. It's still up there. It's still a tourist destination for globe-trotting Bond fans to go up and eat in the Alpine room as it rotates.
Filled with the Stepford wives.
Yes, the angels of death.
Yeah, the quote-unquote angels of death.
The angels of death.
that are scared of chickens and have a bunch of other quirks and eccentricities that was like, you're just kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel there, Blofeld, because it's like, you keep coming back. You're so desperate to take over the world in whatever fashion you see fit, and now you're hypnotizing women with like 60s rainbow colors and like
Is
It's a little silly.
Yeah, is he screening people, or is he running a fake front of a clinic and just accepting people and then just you'll help me take over the world?
Little column A, column B.
yeah. Like, this is the best you got. I mean, okay.
Angela Schuyler, the actress who played the most prolific angel of death, Ruby Bartlett, she also appeared in Casino Royale 67 as one of the fake M's daughters in the Scottish Castle portion. Specifically, she was the one who awkwardly bathed David Niven in the bathtub.
So, two characters who are equally insane.
Yes.
So, Jake, how many of the Bond films so far have had scenes of Baccarat?
Oh, wow.
Baccarat.
How do you pronounce it?
Baccarat or Baccarat?
Okay, Baccarat.
Let's see. Dr. No, Thunderball, this one. Yeah, those ones for sure.
I think Casino Royale.
And of course, Casino Royale.
And then the film version, or the TV version.
And it'll keep coming back.
So it's like a good handful of James Bond films where we're watching people play Baccarat. I still don't know what the fuck is going on.
Same, actually. Honestly, I really couldn't follow the explanation that they gave in Casino Royale in the TV one.
One of the reasons why changing the game to poker was a very good decision for Casino Royale 2006.
Oh, so that's why I understand that one better.
Yeah, because Casino Royale they're playing poker, not
Right.
Baccarat.
Okay.
The original book it is Baccarat, which makes sense for numerous reasons. Poker is more well known by a wider majority of a global audience, and poker has a lot more skill involved than Baccarat. Baccarat is largely luck.
See, we have some notes, Mr. Fleming. Any future books that you write, could you just change Baccarat to poker? No.
No,
But Baccarat, just say it.
Baccarat only. Banco Suivi.
Oh, God damn it. I'm having
No,
fucking
Fallabong.
flashbacks.
One of the fun stories surrounding this movie is the story coming out of George Lazenby's own mouth.
I love this story so much.
His interpretation of how he got the role. The story's been told several times. Every time it kind of changes a little. So he got a call from his agent that they were looking for the new James Bond. So he went into Anthony Sinclair, who was the high-end tailor that tailored all of Sean Connery's suits for the movies, and he bought a leftover suit that was to be given to Connery. It was tailored for Connery. There was a leftover suit. He bought the suit. Then he went over to Connery's actual hairdresser to get his hair done exactly like Sean Connery's. Cubby Broccoli was in the barber at the same time getting his hair done, and he commented on how George Lazenby looked, and this sparked a rumor that lasted for a while that Lazenby was discovered in a barber shop. That's where that rumor apparently came from. So he got Connery's suit, he got Connery's haircut, he went over to Eon Productions, he waited for the secretary to be distracted so he could run up the stairs, and he just barges into Harry Saltzman's office, leans on the door frame and says, "So I hear you're looking for James Bond." And
So this is just a single white female situation. It's a thriller.
so, of course he gets asked, okay, what's your resume? What are your credentials? And Lazenby, like I said, he's never acted before. He was just a model that looked pretty in Australian commercials for chocolate. And so he lied, saying, "Oh, I've acted all across the world, listing different locations around the world. We think, oh, they're never going to be able to check there and verify this." So it was impressive enough, and he was allowed to take some screen tests. And like I said, in one of the screen tests, he did knock out the stuntman who was a professional Russian wrestler.
Oh wow!
The guy who plays the chief heavy henchman guy in the movie. So he knocks him out because he never was taught how to hold back a punch. Yeah. So apparently that was enough to get him the job. And then on set, he finally gets on set, starts the actual filming. He turns over to the director, Peter Hunt, and comes clean. I have to tell you, I've never acted before. And then apparently...
And action.
Yeah, apparently Peter Hunt turned to Lazenby and said, "You just strolled in here and managed to fool two of the most ruthless bastards in the business. You're an actor." So that's Lazenby's story and how he became James Bond.
And I love it every time I hear it.
Did Lazenby do his own stunts? Because that's kind of what it looks like.
Oh, yeah. No, he was insistent on doing his own stunts. He was kind of a young buck. He was very brazen. I get the sense that he was like, had a bit of a chip on his shoulder kind of a thing. And he was always insistent that he wanted to do his own stunts. United Artists Insurance pretty much flat out forbade lead actors of a film to do their own stunts, like at all. Like they couldn't even do, like even for the skiing sequences, for like close-ups of the actors skiing, they had to essentially be kneeling down on their knees on like a sled pretending to ski while a mobile in front of them pulls them along. So actors in United Artists weren't allowed to do anything. And during filming, Lazenby, without permission, just went out and just went skiing on the slopes, just without permission by himself, and ended up breaking his arm and delaying filming.
I'm Bond. I'm going to live forever.
So, yeah, and it's funny because apparently whenever they did ask him to do, some kind of stunt or whatever, as simple as it was a constant thing that he constantly always said, why do I have to do this? The other fella didn't have to do this. Why do I have to do it? And apparently it was a line, it became an in-joke within the cast and crews, so they threw in that line, well, this never happened to the other fellow. That's just a kind of little tongue-in-cheek jab.
But the irony of it is that this is supposed to be the same Bond.
Supposed to be the same Bond, yeah.
Which is why it has that awkward recollection of all his past adventures, and it's like, you're not Sean, dude.
Yeah, no, it's like oh yes, I remember when I remember this knife that belonged to Honey Rider. Oh, and here is the Garrow watch from when I defeated Red Grant. Oh, good times. And even the opening sequence, the entire theme of the title sequence is turning back the clock, and you see, and they show snippets of the previous movies running through the hourglass. So that was kind of a way to, strongly enforce the idea that, this is the same guy. This is the same guy. Even the marketing for the film, the changing of actor was really downplayed. Like none of the marketing put really any attention on George Lazenby at all. They put the attention on the character of James Bond, just to try to downplay the changing of actors.
See,
Do you think that was a benefit?
No, I think I think even the producers probably realized that was probably not the right direction to go. The film still was financially successful, but it wasn't as big of a box office success as some of the previous films. And I think the marketing may have had something to do with it.
Yeah, at least they didn't try to pull like a bait and switch or anything. But it was weird seeing Miss Pennyworth just kind of move on to someone who was obviously someone else. Moneypenny.
Yes, yeah. Moneypenny. Hey, Cruz. Guess what this movie has? Alternate titles from other parts of the world.
Oh, okay, cool. Because if we're gonna be reviewing titles, because they've been pretty interesting so far, but I think On Her Majesty's Secret Service just doesn't roll off the tongue as well as the others.
No, and so these are some of the literal translations of some of the movie's foreign language titles. So from Israel, On Her Majesty's Service. From Japan, The Queen's 007. From Belgium, Canada, France, and West Germany, On the Secret Service of Her Majesty. From Italy, To Serve Her Majesty. From Portugal, 007 on Her Majesty's service. From Spain and Brazil, 007 on Her Majesty's Secret Service. From Denmark to Her Majesty's Secret Service. And my favorite, from China and Norway, 007 sees the Snow Mountain Castle.
I prefer that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Which, speaking of which, the only reason why I got excited at the fact that they're in the Swiss Alps is that we see small little logos for Toblerone, which is my favorite candy bar. So as soon as they got there, I was like, yay, Toblerone!
I didn't even see those advertisements.
But then, as it goes on, and we're stuck with these women who are being hypnotized and allergy testing and all this stuff.
Allergy testing.
Evil polar bears and
Love the polar bear.
and a parade and all this other stuff.
Stock car race. You know.
I'm like, I never want to visit Sweden because it is a nightmare of random things happening to the point where, what was the name of the creepy lady that was after him?
Oh, Irma Bunt.
Okay. Because when she's looking for Bond in this crowd, and it's just a big flash of color and images and people, Chaz, you were like,
She truly, right then, she learns the true meaning of Christmas.
she had this look in her eyes where she's like, she learns the true meaning of Christmas.
I no longer want to be a Bond villain accomplice.
Well, speaking of the character Irma Bunt, because every Bond film needs at least one tragedy.
Oh no.
Oh,
Ilse Steppet, who played Irma Bunt, died of a heart attack 1 week after the film's premiere.
wow.
It was intended for her to return for the next film, but due to her death, they decided to just drop the character.
But she goes out with a literal bang.
Yeah.
She just straight up kills the love interest.
Yeah,
Someone
no,
with her.
Yeah.
I would have preferred it if they had just recast the role like they kept doing with Blofeld, because Bond being unable to get revenge on the person who actually pulled the trigger, to me, it's the most frustrating thing in the entire series.
So Diamonds Are Forever does acknowledge what happens in this, right?
It acknowledges it loosely.
Is he in mourning at all, or just no?
It's Diamonds Are Forever starts off, and you'll see this. It kind of starts off with an implication that some time has passed between On Her Majesty's and Diamonds. So it's not like it immediately picks up. I think because of the awkward changing of actors, there was some sidestepping that was done around the whole Tracy plot. That being said, Tracy is brought up every so often in the series down the line. So she's not completely forgotten, thankfully. She is occasionally brought up and referenced back to. And yeah, that's mostly because of Lazenby leaving. So kind of the whole reason why Lazenby is the one and done actor.
Did he have a reason for that? For not
Yeah, a lot of it was due to his inexperience in the industry. He had gotten involved with this advisor by the name of Roland O'Reilly, who was really deep into the budding hippie scene. And he kind of got his tendrils around Lazenby a bit. Lazenby kind of drank this guy's Kool-Aid and would just listen to whatever he said. And so Roland convinced him that the Bond franchise wasn't going to be lucrative much longer. And that Lazenby would be much better off jumping ship while he still could.
Listen, Lazenby, I am the Eggman. Cuckoo, choo. You make so much sense.
So it was Roland O'Reilly, not Lazenby, who announced to the press, not Eon Productions. He had announced to the press that Lazenby would not be returning for another picture. Eon Productions was really angry about this, and they retaliated by just firing Lazenby officially. Naturally, Lazenby will be the first to tell you that it was the dumbest decision he's ever made in his life. That leaves us with this one kind of black sheep of a movie. Not only is it the only film that has just this one actor in the role, it's a film that's significantly tonally different from the rest of the franchise. There really is no other film like On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
No other film has a room full of bells that they just fight in.
No other room has a room full of bells that they just fight in. I love the bobsled sequence. I think it's a really unique climax to have the Bond and the villain fighting on this moving bobsled while trying to keep it in control. You know, and Bond gets to show off his amazing superpower of being able to tank a grenade and not take any harm.
Yeah, he just walks it off and catches him. Yeah, there's a lot of like injuries in this film that people just shake off.
The avalanche.
Yeah, like
Yeah, they survived.
there's a little avalanche. I'm like, okay, well you won because they're fucked.
No,
Bones are broken, but no.
No, but Bond and Tracy just got knocked out. They're fine.
Not a single bone broken.
Nope. And yet, at the same time, this film has like a lot of really gruesome deaths as well.
Surprisingly, one of them not being when the main villain gets his head like forked off of the freaking bobsled.
Yeah, he just shows up with a freaking neck brace.
Neck
I'm
brace,
fine.
right.
It's
Driving the
cool.
car.
Driving like always.
I've got insurance. It's good. Well, that makes me think of when the car is like, they'll avoid the crowd. They're just driving through all of these people, and Chaz just goes. The car plows through this crowd of people. And it's like, what's left of the crowd goes wild. It's almost a whimsical, like sledding down the mountain and skiing down the mountain, but like out of nowhere they just fall into a snow thresher, and instead of just having it be the end, it's shooting guts
and
out
blood.
of it like Happy Tree Friends, and the other skiers are going through it, and I'm like, this is amazing.
Like you think he's just gonna fall off? He's like the ski over a trench. You think he's just not gonna make it, but then he falls and he gets into the snow thresher.
6 months of skiing training, all for this.
All over the
To
snow.
be turned into soup du jour.
My personal favorite death.
Into cold gazpacho.
My personal favorite death would have to be the Wile E. Coyote death.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
Where the guy just goes over the edge and the camera just follows him in complete silence.
All the way
up to the
down.
bottom.
Damn,
Yes,
dude.
yeah.
You see him meet his shadow.
You do. It's awesome. And then Bond shoves another guy over the cliff.
Immediately afterwards.
And the camera just doesn't care about him.
No.
Yeah, it's just like, you get the point.
That's why we were just picturing the guy somehow survives his fall, and he's like, "Oh God, I'm alive." Think,
Gets crushed by his colleague who falls right on top of him.
So I'm guessing they
hard?
just threw a dummy off, right?
Yeah, it's just a
No,
dummy.
they actually threw the guy off.
Well, it looked really good.
It was a good dummy.
It didn't look like
Yeah,
it was.
That was a good dummy.
What's the word?
Flailing ragdoll.
Yeah.
Ragdoll. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
So
looks
it's
pretty
probably,
good.
it's probably like a crash test dummy, you know.
Have you guys seen that video of the goat that's just chilling on the mountain, and then the eagle decides to fuck with it and throws it off of the mountain?
No, I haven't.
It's what it reminded me of.
Oh.
And the camera just follows the goat. Just
That sounds amazing.
That's horrible.
that's great.
How did they film that avalanche? What was that?
It was a combination of stock footage and actually setting off an avalanche, controlled avalanche with charges through the use. I believe it was the actual Swiss military that aided them in that. And
That's
so
awesome.
it was a combination of setting off an actual controlled avalanche and some stock footage. The shot where you see Bond and Tracy actually get consumed by an avalanche is just a film from above of the avalanche, and they just inputted 2 tiny little black pixels.
It looks super good. It doesn't look like stock footage at all.
Like, whereas anybody kind of irritated that Lazenby was kind of not very Scottish?
Yeah.
Because I know Lazenby did voice coaching during the filming to kind of hide his Australian accent to keep it from coming in too much to sound as British as possible. They didn't train him to be Scottish like John Connery. They did train him to sound much more British, especially when he's trying to impersonate Sir Hilary Bray, which
he does a really good job with that range.
no, he doesn't.
I figured. I wanted to be right. I wanted to be right, but
No,
I
he-
had a feeling.
He did try to do as good and as close an impersonation of the actor George Baker as possible. He did try his best, and it wasn't until actually watching the final cut of the movie for the first time at the premiere that he realized that they just dubbed him. So that is the actor for Sir Hilary Bray just dubbing over George Lazenby for the impersonations. I love Telly Savalas' Blofeld. his interpretation is a major inspiration for what has now become the modern de facto interpretation of Lex Luthor. Tall, bald, velvety voiced, poetic sounding Lex Luthor. That's that comes from Telly Savalas and Blofeld.
Well, if nothing else, I can at least learn James Bond's secret identity. I have no idea who this is.
Yeah.
Jake, when you leave this place, you will no longer be afraid of horses.
And you will love mint.
No, there's no amount of hypnosis in the world that would solve me of that allergy.
Is that a challenge?
I'm just imagining Jacob just like, oh, well, I love mint. Oh, my God. Oh.
I will tell you when.
I
will tell you
love
where.
mint.
I will
No,
tell you how.
I don't.
I'd be glad to get when I get my feet back on the ground. Not ground. Ice.
Oh, yeah. That was a pretty good line, too.
I've always loved the delivery of that line. Not ground. Ice.
Because A, it's clarification, and B, it's a little threatening.
Yeah.
Because you don't fuck with ice, as Samuel L. Jackson will tell you in Deep Blue Sea.
This one time at movie camp.
This one time at allergy camp.
I had an awkward female coworker make that joke at least once a week, and every time she would do it, I'd be like, "Finish it," and she'd be like, "Finish what?" I'm like, "Go on,
Go on.
go on."
I'm
You keep
curious
saying it.
Yeah. What happened to you at band camp? I'm on pins and needles to know the end of the story.
So, Jake,
James Band.
any
Call of Ambulance.
which now that you say it, I tried saxophone for 1 year in 4th grade, but every other person that played the trumpet, they'd be like, "Look what I can do!" It's like, yeah, I get it. Everyone's been doing that. I get it. For this week's episode,
Sleep on Me, Mothra.
Actually, I like that one.
I like that one too.
All right, I'm going with it.
no, don't go with that.
Oh.
I'm just going to say Sleeping on Mothra then.
No.
Sleeping with a Mothra body pillow.
Just going to say Sleeping on Mothra. keep it
We
nice
need
and
things that
ambiguous.
will not cause people to immediately turn off when they hear it.
Oh, we're already too late. We already brought him on the show. So.
Zing!
By the mid-1960s, Godzilla was facing his greatest archenemy yet, television. With family entertainment now taking place at home, Toho began to streamline their kaiju cash cow by cutting down on special effects and moving the giant monster destruction to island locales instead of Tokyo cityscapes. The first film to begin this trend would be Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, a tropical adventure that finds 4 everyday guys shipwrecked on an island after a giant lobster claw destroys their boat. It was the first of 5 Godzilla movies directed by Jun Fukuda, whose entries are normally considered the worst of the Showa era, due to their sense of violent pessimism and bizarre stories. Although not one of the best in the series, it's the bright colors, fun concept, and the return of composer Masaru Sato with a surf rock soundtrack that I feel makes this film an enjoyable watch. So guys, what did you think of Godzilla versus Crab People?
You said crab people like multiple times in the time leading up to this, and I was heavily disappointed there were not people with crab arms.
This movie was a cartoon.
Yeah.
Straight up. It was. I'm still kind of on the fence myself in terms of my opinion of this film. Like, I did have fun. It was a blast of a film, and on that level alone, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the hell did I just watch? Like, throughout a lot of this movie, I did find myself riffing at it, but I felt like I was riffing with the movie as opposed to riffing at the movie.
This is definitely one of the one of the movies with the most camp so far.
Yeah, I was having fun right alongside it. It felt like, it welcomed me to have fun, especially, once that surf rock guitar comes up. It's just like the movie's just saying, sit back, relax, and just enjoy the ride.
And just significantly contributing to that is just the Godzilla actor just seeming to feel very comfortable just being expressive and just doing like a lot of just shouts and like kind of dances and stuff like that.
Godzilla in this movie was, I definitely see Godzilla is becoming more animated with every single movie, not just in terms of motion itself, but also expression. Godzilla at this point in the series is no longer just a mindless monster. He has a character, and you can see exactly what's going through the head of Godzilla at any given moment. In this particular movie, it's I need a cup of coffee. just his general mannerisms and the way he was carrying himself. He really did look like he got woken up way too early from his nap and he's just really cranky and angry and is confused as to why all these stupid humans won't just let him sleep.
Yeah, the whole time, like, all three of these guys were just determined to make Godzilla, in need of food or coffee this whole time.
I didn't really do that to Godzilla as much as I did Mothra.
Yeah.
Who at the point
but Godzilla's mission in this movie was to just get food, according to these guys.
It was just after breakfast. The guy just wanted breakfast, and everything was just in the way from him getting breakfast. Whether it's a bunch of humans running around, zapping him with electricity, or, giant lobsters in the sea just being a dick, or, just a giant random condor just coming out and heading at his head for no reason.
He's taking a nap, and then his eye just goes, and there's a fucking condor right there.
You have this entire island trying to wake up Mothra for 3 days, just constantly praying and singing wake up, wake up, wake up. And the second they stop is the moment that she actually finally wakes up. It's
oh, maybe that's all it took for her to actually just shut up.
Fuck up.
Just one of the twins goes up and pokes Mothra. Uh-oh, guys.
We sure this thing's actually alive?
Who was the one that mentioned it was just a cardboard cutout?
No, that was me.
That was you?
We should check to see if it...
I made the addendum of there's a little sticky note attached to just be back in half a year.
Be back in 6 movies.
Yeah.
Be back on Christmas
out
break.
on vacation. We're definitely getting to the point as a group where we can't help but to apply just silly voices or whatever to these characters.
I'm looking forward to, because Jun Fukuda's especially, even though they're considered the lesser quality of the series, lend themselves to being that fun. I don't consider them bad. They're just not the golden era that we were coming from. But you'll see how strange and comical the stories continue. Some better than others, but it makes me incredibly happy to see you guys along for the ride and not these are stupid. And for a film like this, and we'll get to the recommendations at the end, but it's if you're the kind of person who likes James Bond-esque / I don't know, Elvis surf fun comedy, buddy comedy things, then that's kind of what this goes for.
Yeah, because...
Or if you like Tropical Islands, because as I said before, these movies introduced me to things before school did. So this was my first time seeing an island, and the concept of climbing a mountain and seeing the rocks falling beneath you and getting a sense of you can fall off of this thing. And the concept of lobsters, technically, because did anyone ever go into a Ralph's or any other grocery store that had an actual tank?
Yeah, a long time
Yeah.
ago.
I remember those.
I remember those. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can rest assured, every time I walked by one of them, I would think, Ibra,
Yes.
there he is. They weren't
being
just
in.
animals, they were a monster right there.
This is a story from my sister, actually. Apparently, she begged my mom to get a live lobster from the grocery store and, make a lobster dinner, cook it and everything. And Mom's like, okay, fine, we'll do it. So, they chose a lobster. They took it home. They boiled up the water. Mom chucked the live lobster into the boiling pot, and apparently it let out this eldritch abomination of a scream that kind of scarred my sister for life. Hearing this lobster just let out this blood-curdling scream.
Your mom was like, "You wanted this."
And that's basically how the story is told. It's like you wanted this. This is gonna happen. We're gonna eat it.
One of my favorite things that you said, Willie, was they were trying to figure out how to handle the situation on the island, and they find that Godzilla's asleep. So you're like, oh, let's just wake Godzilla up. And they're like, I know, let's wake Godzilla up. And you're
Literally
like,
the next line.
yeah, and you're like,
was
God damn
It
it.
was like a second later, too.
It was immediate.
And I'm just like, I was joking, actually.
I'm like, my friends are catching on to how these films work now. So it's great.
I wasn't. I was making a
at the
stupid joke.
time, I was too distracted by the joke we were making about Godzilla sleeping with a Mothra body pillow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just every time he
Mothra.
snores, just Mothra.
Mothra.
Every time Mothra comes up and there's a song about Mothra, I'm sad that we're not hearing Masuda.
Yeah.
Is the only next time that comes up 85?
Well, no, it didn't come out in 85. It's later in the series. But yeah, the next time you hear the original Mothra version is the one that I already showed you.
So there are two Mothra movies that we've seen that had the theme song. Was that the original and then the new one?
Yeah. Yeah, because
Okay.
Ghidorah and this movie has its own rendition of the Mothra song, which are still good. I just miss, like he said, the original one.
Yeah.
No, Mothra only woke up to give her hubby a good talking to and then slap him in the face with a wing. Which my favorite shot in the entire movie is just right in the face.
The funny part is that like Mothra flies in like right as Godzilla's ripped off Edir's arms, and he's like,
I know how this looks. I can explain.
You would not believe the day that I've had, okay, lady?
I'm justified, I promise.
Godzilla,
Like some stupid
where-
humans woke me up by shocking me with lightning. Lightning! Can you believe that?
Don't worry,
No coffee.
Don't worry, Mothra. Ibra's right here. Hey guys, it's me, Ibra. To infinity.
Doing this with that.
Hey guys, it's me, Ibra. I hate yellow.
I can imagine Godzilla's like having fun with the claw, like, and then he sees Mothra.
Hi.
He just looks at the claws like, okay, mistakes were made.
Yeah, like, okay, yeah, the lobster the crab will technically be alive, but he's probably gonna get destroyed by anything that would normally be fended off by his fucking claws.
Look who it is, Mr. No Claws. What are you doing around here, college boy? Can you imagine like Ibra falling into the ocean? It's like, well, look who it is, Mr. I don't need claws to survive. And he's like,
Look who it is, Mr. Afraid of the color yellow.
Sad
oh god, this is turning into a freaking who's the author of I Have No Mouth?
Fuck, I don't remember.
Forgot his name.
I should know, but not if you asked the question. It's escaped me.
Isn't that same game that you should?
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
no
yeah,
mouth and
yeah.
I must scream. Of course,
Yeah.
like Cruz asked the question, and now I'm blinking on the fucking author's name, and I'm gonna wake up in the middle of the night, like, God fucking damn it.
Want me to look it up right now?
It's more fun if we remember.
Okay.
True, but I mean, since we don't,
Or you can look it up at the end. I don't care.
I have no claws, but I must pinch. Even if the amount of which I hate you is written onto every single radioactive molecule on my 500-foot tall carapace.
Oh, Harlan Ellison.
It would not equal to a billionth of a trillionth of how much I irradiationally hate you.
You should make like a version of that monologue, but with Godzilla's
That
point
was-
of view.
Like, not sure if impressed is too strong of a word, but that sounds clever.
So, believe it or not, this film was originally planned as a revival for Toho's rendition of King Kong called Operation Robinson Crusoe, which explains the island setting and how Godzilla fixates on the woman Dio, who was played by Miss Namikawa from the
was
last
weird.
film.
Okay, that was weird.
Yeah.
Is that also connected to the idea of waking him up with electricity?
Yes.
Because that was like a King Kong thing.
It also is a reason why he's throwing rocks, because King Kong doesn't have fire breath, so what are you going to do?
They had a bunch of fake boulders laying around.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of, they pretty much swapped in Godzilla when King
That
Kong
does
didn't
make
take
sense
off.
because the part of the movie that did have me like the most confused was when he was fixated on the girl and he was just kind of sitting there just staring at her.
Oh my god! And the funniest part about that is he's just like, while he's staring, he's like kind of slowly passes back out. Like he hasn't eaten anything. He's like
He just lays his head on the rock, just goes back down.
dozes asleep.
I interpreted that scene as him just being like trying to get a read on the girl, not
It's like,
like being like
You're looking
like,
at
like,
it scientifically, Willie.
You know, it's funny that you bring up that this was a King Kong movie because a giant condor kind of feels like
Exactly,
a King Kong
yeah.
monster.
Which you asked Willie, like, was that supposed to be Rodan? And the answer is no, but it was a puppet refashioned from Rodan into this giant random condor.
yeah.
so around no context. It just comes in out of nowhere, attacks.
Godzilla's just like,
Godzilla,
oh shit.
Godzilla dispenses with it really quickly, and then that's it. I mean, I'm sure Godzilla was very happy to have his new opponent be a giant lobster because, finally, something I can fight in my element.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually get to see some of the underwater fight, and it does look pretty cool.
Yeah, which even though those scenes last for a few minutes in the film, the shooting actually took a week long.
Wow.
And can you guess why?
Well, they ended up having to fake the water, so I'm having trouble imagining.
Well, I mean, when they were in the actual water, when you see them
Oh.
fighting together, it's because the suits are filling up with water.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But the underwater shots were achieved by filming them on a soundstage, and then they put an aquarium in front of the camera. So that's how they achieved that. So did everyone appreciate the return of Dr. Serizawa in this film?
Yeah, Evil
With his eye
Serizawa.
patch, yeah.
Good old Bond villain, Evil Serizawa.
And he was doing Bond villain-esque shit, I think.
I was expecting them to like have a close-up of what the emblem on his patch was, but I was kind of curious about that because like usually a patch is just like blank.
Yeah, the red bamboo is supposedly like a fill-in without actually saying it for like the Chinese military,
I can see
and that's
it.
kind of what they're dabbling
Given
in.
their name, yeah, that makes sense.
Which
that's-
I think
and-
it's a really cool name, and I wish they came back somehow in the series, but they never do.
I think the part that of the Godzilla series overall that's starting to I don't want to say irk me a little bit, but the part that I find like why you guys keep trying this is the electrical fence.
Exactly.
To stop
yeah,
Godzilla. It's
exactly.
like, guys, all he has to do is step on one of those power lines and it's gone. And he does that every time.
Yeah, as you've noticed throughout the series, they keep going back and forth between electricity doesn't hurt him, then it does, and then they use electricity to bring him back to life or wake him up. So it's like,
He still managed to destroy it and step over it.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't work. Stop trying.
well, I mean, the truth is
if it ain't
not.
broke, don't fix it. It's broke.
There's an entire military like multi-level layer plan involving electrical fences, and it never worked.
Yeah, the truth is that technically nothing works against Godzilla, so
Yeah.
you know you can take your pick.
You see him wipe out an entire like fighter jet squadron.
Yeah.
I mean, ice cubes worked.
Oh yeah.
Well, no, he eventually broke out of that. He woke up.
Temporary solution.
His weakness is 2 buckets.
Oh, shut up!
what?
It's now become an inside joke. So, how are you guys feeling about the the state of Godzilla's costume at the moment, because I always like to refer to this version of Godzilla as the Cookie Monster Godzilla.
Yeah, no, you may have noticed the first thing we got when Godzilla first woke up, the first thing we all kind of hyper fixated on was the fact that it looked like he had no teeth.
Yeah. It just looked like they were gone. I swear all I could see was gums.
Yeah.
Or they were painted rotted tooth color, which is not much of a step above.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a bit of a brownish, reddish tint in this film.
I've certainly, I guess, gotten used to stoner eye Godzilla, where his eyeball is halfway up his skull. I've kind of gotten used to that, if only because of the comedic moments it provides of just making Godzilla just look absolutely frustrated and exacerbated about the situation. He kind of gives him this perpetual, oh, jeez.
Like it's supposed to come off as like really aggressive, but it's just like, oh, fucking again. Like it makes it so easy for you to just do an eye roll in your head, and it's just like, yeah, that's Godzilla, all right.
Yeah.
So, oh my god, that's such a good point. No, it's making me have childhood flashbacks because, admittedly, like, some kids pretend to be Power Rangers, some kids pretend to be superheroes. Yeah. I would pretend to be Godzilla.
Yeah, fair enough. You know who I pretended to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm picturing a kid hiding behind couches and pretending to hold a gun, I imagine, as Bond.
How did you get cameras into my house?
Versus a kid putting their hands up and making all these noises and knocking things over. But it reminds me that, yeah, there were times where I would roll my eyes back into my head to achieve that look. So what adds to that super tired look that Godzilla has is they actually added some more roars for him in this film. Mm-hmm. So he does a lot.
I noticed some
he does a lot more growling and like guttural noises, and those actually stick around pretty much up until 1985.
That's cool.
So I think it's cool that they keep them.
I do have to express my sincere interest and excitement for the surf rock soundtrack. My first real exposure to music, the first band that I really knew and started listening to and got exposed to was the Beach Boys.
Oh, sweet.
And so I am just naturally a huge fan of surf rock and that sound. So
I'm glad that you love that because I think this is one of my favorite soundtracks in the whole Godzilla series, just because of how distinct it is. With the soundtrack now becoming more kind of amped and fun, that's all due to Masaru Sato, who, like I said before, is responsible for the theme song to our podcast and creating the more fun, groovy soundtracks of the series. And this film is a really good example of that.
Groovy.
Yeah, despite like a lot of the movie having like a most dangerous game because they're being hunted kind of vibe.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking
I see
at
that.
it.
Yeah.
Like it still gives it like a very kind of lax attitude, even though they're literally being hunted. And they're like shooting just down the caves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because like the main hero characters who I really enjoyed, like they really are just trying to survive. And say what you will about this era of Godzilla, I do have to say that I do feel like the human characters are getting better with each film.
That's great to hear because at this point we're getting to characters that are not in the military, they're not scientists, they're just guys that walk into the situation. And that can either be really fun or it can be really boring. So it's cool to see you guys actually care about these guys who
really were just four random blokes who didn't have anything to do with anything. And
with
they
the
just
brightest color scheme clothes.
Yeah,
that was the one thing we
they
were
had
making
plenty of
fun.
yellows on them.
The main thief who's like kind of like he like takes point. He's the main sneaky guy, undoing all the locks, doing all the hiding, all in charge of all the stealth, and he's dressed like a banana.
Played by Akira Takarada, who was the Japanese James Bond. So it's
He was
kinda
great. I
fitting.
loved him.
Yeah.
This was his fourth Godzilla movie and the last one for the Showa series until we get to the 90s that he shows up in.
Out of curiosity, Cruz, what's the longest, if you want to say it, what's the longest time period between a Godzilla movie?
Let me think. Let's take a moment to think about all the gaps in the Godzilla history. So between Raids Again and King Kong, we had 7 years.
Really?
Yeah. And then between Terror of Mechagodzilla and Godzilla 1984, that's 9 years. Wait. I'm getting the Japanese release dates and the American release dates mixed up. And then Godzilla vs. Destroya and Godzilla 2000, 4 years. And then the biggest one that you asked for would be Godzilla Final Wars, which was 2004, followed by Shin Godzilla, which was 2016, so 12 years. If you want to learn the actual distinct eras of the films, is everything from the 50s to the 70s is Showa. Everything from the 80s to the 90s is Heisei. Everything from 2000 to 2004 is Millennium. And then Shin Godzilla is Reiwa.
Are they still is Toho still doing any?
Well, technically, Reiwa is Shin Godzilla, the anime film trilogy, and the new Godzilla Singular Point, now on Netflix. Ding! But as of right now, we haven't had any more live-action Godzilla films. So
Okay.
we are eagerly waiting.
Did this film have an official dub at all?
Yeah, that's something I discovered recently was I went for the both of them to see which one was better. The dub was very underwhelming, but it wasn't what I remembered watching as a kid. And that's when I remembered that there's actually an international official dub licensed by Toho versus a third-party source dub that I saw on VHS. So it was a really fun experience, mostly because of the technology you have on hand, where I have all three things plugged in, where I'm switching between my VCR to my PS3, then to my PS4, testing my VHS tape, my Kraken release Blu-ray, and my Criterion Collection Blu-ray to figure out what the fuck is going on.
And you couldn't fix it last night because of the death.
Shut up!
But
There were no technical difficulties. You shut your mouth.
One of the small details that I love about this film, and it's kind of in addition to the color, is how much the yellows and the reds just shine in the film.
Just pop.
One of which is that procrastinating button that keeps counting down and keeps falling into the console.
Oh my god, that's
It
right.
was so shiny and pretty. Like, as a kid,
Yeah.
I loved that thing.
It's like a set piece in and of itself, just watching
Yeah.
this incredibly polished brass-looking thing just like click back in right as they're about to get it.
It took me a second to realize what was going on with that. I thought it was just like Rubble had damaged the thing for, like for the first time, but then I'm like, wait, no, it's going down because it's actually counting down, and once it retracts all the way, kaboom.
And every time it kept falling down, Chaz is like, oh, the button's going, ew. Don't touch me.
You guys are so unwashed.
It's not very practical, is it, to have a self-destruct button, an ability to end the self-destruct button.
Yeah.
But the further it gets into the countdown, the technically harder it is to end that self-destruct.
It was only hard. It was only hard to do it because it was covered by Rebel, though.
Well, think
Yeah,
about
but,
this.
but I'm talking about like the practicality of imagine that the room wasn't destroyed and full of rubble, and they just, in a vacuum, turn on the self-destruct sequence. What is the point of having the button sync with every tick?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
There's no point to it.
Yeah.
Well, think of it this way. There's a giant monster destroying our base. What do? Destroy the base. We now come to another long list of alternate titles. Most of which are ocean-based, and the others really making you wonder if the marketing department knew what they were watching.
Oh boy, I can't wait.
Starting with the literal Japanese title of Godzilla, Ibara, Mothra, Great Duel of the South Seas.
I like that title.
In America, Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster and Ibara, Horror of the Deep. In Spain, The Monsters from the Sea. In Mexico, Godzilla vs. the Terror of the Seas. In Colombia, Ibara, Horror in the Depths. In France, Ibara vs. Godzilla. In Germany...
Jesus Christ, this better be good, Chris. I literally cannot say it.
Oh, God, okay.
I mean,
that
German does use ridiculous words.
In Germany, Frankenstein...
What?
Finish it.
Frankenstein and the Monsters of the Ocean.
What?
Fuck.
In Italy, The Return of Godzilla. Okay. In Turkey, Ibra, Monster Island.
All right.
He's at the verge of tears just for you at home. He's at the verge of tears.
In
right
Poland, Ibra, the Monster of Magic. And my personal favorite from Holland, Mothra, the Flying Dracula Monster.
What? Was there just like a huge like hiccup in popularity of like Universal monsters in
I
Europe?
don't know.
We were at the beach. Everybody had matching towels. Somebody went under a dock, and there they saw a rock. It wasn't a rock. It was a rock lobster. Rock lobster. Rock lobster.
So, Jake, would you recommend On Her Majesty's Secret Service or Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster to a first-time viewer?
I would recommend On Her Majesty's Secret Service to a first-time viewer, under the caveat that it is a sort of black sheep Bond film. There's certainly no other Bond film like it. So if you wanted to go into your first film as kind of a identifier of what James Bond is like most of the time, you're not going to get that much as much. However, if you do want a fun spy film that has romance and good characters and with a little bit of zany action, I think there is enough there in the movie to satisfy most audiences, and you will have a good time. I'm a bit more on the fence with Sea Monster. It certainly has its cartoony kookiness to it that, you know, is certainly a lot of fun. However, one particular note with this film is that it does not provide a lot of context to anything that's going on. The film does not explain who Godzilla is. It does not explain who Mothra is. It is filled with a lot of significant lore, and the movie is written in such a way that it kind of expects you to already know all of this lore going in. So because of that, I'd say that Sea Monster may not be the best jumping on point if you know absolutely nothing about Godzilla.
I have to agree with Jake on both of those points. I do enjoy On Her Majesty's Secret Service a lot. The biggest thing missing from Godzilla versus the Sea Monster is the context. That's the main killer for me for it not being a first time viewer.
Yeah, On Her Majesty's Service is definitely a good, definitely could be a good first Bond movie if you have someone to kind of give you the right mindset going into it. It does have a lot of the Bond tropes, so it could be a good way to kind of get. God, fucking damn it.
You also fucked up the title of the movie.
Wait, I said On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
You said On Her Majesty's Service or something like that.
Okay, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Man, why does his face look just a little bit more generic?
Because that is the face of a goddamn hero.
He looks like
Look at that bravado.
he looks like a knockoff G.I. Joe. No offense, because
No,
Alabama man.
George Lazenby does look really awkward. Like, you can tell he's obviously airbrushed into the cover.
definitely a good movie if you can go in with the right mindset and also knowing that it's not like other Bond movies, so you might be able to appreciate it there. But Godzilla goes to the grocery store to get some lobster is definitely relies on you knowing what Godzilla movies are kind of like. So maybe not the best one for a first time view, but third or fourth or maybe fifth could definitely work.
I wish I could recommend this Bond film because, Jake, you have such an affinity for it. But unfortunately, because of what we've gotten with Connery so far, I would highly recommend starting with one of those versus this one. However, if you were to stumble upon this one and watch it for the first time, I don't think that you'd have a bad experience at all. For Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, it was one of the very first ones that I saw as a kid and one that I would watch and repeat. It was also actually my introduction to Mothra, and as a kid, I really didn't question where these giant things were coming from. I wouldn't recommend it for a first-time viewer unless you were a huge fan of surf rock or island adventure movies. But apart from that, yeah, there's a lot more that you can pick from to start with.
Next time on James Bond, Sean Connery slips into the tuxedo for one final adventure. For now. We're off to Las Vegas when James Bond returns and diamonds are forever.
And next time on Godzilla, it's time for the four of us to get a crash course in killing insects and being a single parent as we once again visit a tropical island for Son of Godzilla. Thank you all for listening to Bond vs. Godzilla. We'll see you next time with a martini in one hand and a rubber suit in the other.
Stay tuned and stay watching.